ride on this exciting journey to mastering the art of eyebrows. Either you're a newbie or a seasoned pro, it doesn't matter. This podcast is your go-to resource for all things brows. I've gathered industry experts, insider tips, and inspiring success stories to help you enhance your skills, boost your confidence, and take your brow game to new heights. Welcome back. I am happy to have you here. We are changing the positioning of our mic, trying this angle out. My other one was kind of just pissing me off, but we still have our lovely pink cover, so all is well. Today we are talking clients, so I'll be using lots of C words. We'll be using lots of C words today as we talk about clients. No, not that C word, but we are talking consultation, client care, communication, building trust, transparency, some other words with different first letters. I think this is just something that's so important, and I don't know that we talk about it enough. I think so many of us want to give tons and tons of advice on how to grow your business and how to market and how to manage and the money aspect, and all of those things are super duper important. But I think one thing that we forget a lot is what actually is our business, and that at the end of the day is clients. We are service providers. We rely on these people for our income. So it's super important to know how to handle them as people, how to build a solid relationship with them with open, honest communication and trust. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we have proper boundaries and policies in place. And at the end of the day, we want to give them an incredible experience, but also remember that this is ultimately a business at the end of the day. I do think that as a beauty professional, we tend to love our clients, maybe a little bit differently than another type of business, certainly different than a corporate business that is completely detached from its customer base. We see them in person. We physically, this sounds gross, but we touch them with our hands, and any professional listening, you know what I mean? We are in there in a very personal, intimate matter with our clients. So trust and open communication is very, very, very important. I think that once you really dial in who you are as a professional and who your ideal clientele is, it makes it a lot easier to make these changes and switches and moves and, head in the right direction. But at first it can kind of be awkward, fumbling, especially if you've never worked in customer service before or anything like that. Some conversations can be kind of awkward and icky, and I just kind of want to get into it a little bit. So first and foremost, when you're building a clientele, the most important thing is to be open at first. I think that one of my biggest ways of sussing out not only my niche, but my ideal clientele and kind of what they're looking for and what their expectations are and what I'm able to provide, need to be symbiotic. The more people I worked with when I wasn't a solo artist helped me realize who I wanted to ultimately work with. I think that's a really big, important portion of your journey, especially if you're a new artist, is really just trying to work with a lot of different people, because it might surprise you who your ideal clientele is. Maybe you mesh really well with a little bit older people than you, or you get along really great with those Gen Zers. These things, that's just one metric, but it is something that can help you target your audience that you get along really well with. Now, I'm not saying we need to close off other people or anything like that, but it helps drive kind of where your focus should lie, because those are the people that you bond well with and they take well to you and your style, and maybe it has to do with your niche specifically, or whatever it may be. But understanding these core whys are really important, especially when you're building. And then once you get a little bit further along, maybe you've built out a clientele, you almost are like a gardener and you're going through and weeding out. So you are gardening, right? You're getting rid of the bad that we don't need, and you're making room to plant plants that are going to flourish. And that's kind of what you're working with. If you have a client that you work with and they're super toxic, it's going to make the experience bad for both parties. Not just them, but also, not just you, but also them. I mean, if you guys aren't getting along, like we see people pretty frequently, especially as brow artists, as close as like every 3 weeks. And that can really, like, I don't know, it gets hard over time. It just feels like something abrasive that's happening and it's painful, and I think you get a little resentful, you get anxiety, you don't want to look forward, neither of you are looking forward to it because ultimately maybe they like the end result but they're hating the process, and it's just like ultimately we want to go in and work with people that want to work with us. So if you are adamant about staying true to those core values that you have in your business and who you are as a professional, what you want to provide to your community, and what you stand for, it's a lot easier to find out those people that don't work. And it can be honestly as simple as you guys literally personality wise don't match, and that's okay. Like if it's something that's giving you anxiety or stressing you out, it's not worth it. And they're going to notice that too. Even if they maybe it's you, it's not necessarily them, they just make you uncomfortable, or vice versa. You're feeling that they're uncomfortable and you've tried to make them feel comfortable and you're unable to accomplish that. That can be something that just like ultimately isn't a good experience for either of you. And it's just so hard to put your best foot forward when everything you're doing is just ultimately not working. So, and also, it's keeping you from what you want to provide. If they're not enjoying the experience and neither are you, there's a space that could be available for somebody who does mesh well with you in the way your style, how you approach your business, and your client experience. We want to shuffle those people to other people, basically fire those clients, which is, it sounds so aggressive, but you want to let go of those clients so that they can find their people that they ultimately do mesh well with, so that you can find the other people that mesh well with you. We're not like getting rid of people and shoving them to the wayside and sending them off. That's not what this is. Ultimately, proper client care is caring for that client. If you're not their cup of tea or vice versa, you're not really caring for them, right? So ultimately the client care is just like, I feel like a friendship. You want to make sure that you have the business boundaries, i.e. your policies, but also we need to be open, communicative, and honest with our clients. So if you're struggling or going through something, I'm always such a big proponent of like transparency and being transparent with your clients, because I think it's so important to be open and honest with them, because I think once you allow yourself to be a little vulnerable and a little more open and honest, transparent with them, they also in turn feel the same way and want to do that with you. So you open that doorway and you kind of start tiptoeing, breaking that ice, getting to know them. So I think the number one way to really start to build that relationship and gain that trust and open that communication is just like dialogue. So in their appointments, I always like to ask lots of questions. Sometimes, I have clients that have seen me for years, so they plop down and they're just filling me in on their life because we only have 15 minutes to talk or whatever it may be, and we want to get down and dirty with it. We want to catch up. But my new clients, they don't know what they're experiencing. This is their first time. It may not be their first time getting their brows done, but depends on where the person. But I've met people older who have never gotten their brows done, so you never know. So I always like to start with where did you find me, if you don't mind me asking, which is a nice way to hear what's working marketing wise. Are you getting client referrals? Is it Instagram? Is it Google? Like how are they finding you? Personally, in my small town, word of mouth is 9 times out of 10 their answer. So I love hearing it. It just re-solidifies that what I'm doing is working. People are talking about me in a positive manner. B, I like to ask them, like, have they ever been threaded before? My brow business is built on a niche. I am a niche brow expert, and my expertise is threading. So I always like to just double check. This is going to help me get to know them more. It's going to let me know if I need to go over hand holding positions for the threading portion, if I need to direct them at all, if I need to warn them about anything. Warn them as in like if they're getting their lip threaded. I do not sugarcoat that. I think the lip area is one of the worst spots to get hair removal period, but it's also a painful spot to get started. I'm quick and I swear to everything. That is what makes it even doable. But anyways, getting off topic. So I'm going to ask them these questions. This is going to start the communication. It's also going to be a really good way for you to kind of do a vibe check. We're going to vibe check our clients. We're going to see how their responses are. If they're giving me one-word answers, they probably are a little uncomfortable and don't want to talk. Or they just want a silent appointment and they're not vibing and they just want to lay back, relax, get their brows done, and leave. That's fine. That might be a client that I have to see or meet maybe 5 times. They may be in their 5th appointment, they'll start opening up and then we can build that relationship from there. But what I'm doing is I'm honoring who they are when they're showing up in my place of business. If they're coming in and giving me clear signs that it's time for quiet time, I don't want to chat a bunch, I just want to get in here, get my brows done, and head home, maybe that can just be the one part of their day that you make easy. They come in, they don't have to tell you what's going on. You can be consistent with their appointment. All you have to get is maybe a quick consultation, asking questions, and that's totally fine. Make sure to word it in a way that they can just give you those one-word answers. And, just go from there. Obviously, if there's any concerns, I always like to tell my clients as they leave, like, hey, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. You can give them their business card if they don't have your number. Usually they have a way of reaching out to you, but this can be another way where you open that door. If you're somebody who only accepts emails, you can be like, email me here, text me here, DM me on Instagram if you follow me, whatever. This kind of just goes to show that you care, A, that they're happy, and B, you're honoring the fact that maybe in person isn't the best way for them to communicate with you. And sometimes people like to communicate in different ways. So you're kind of opening the door. Second option would be somebody who's very, very open. Now, this is a great way where you can ask them whatever questions, however that conversation takes you. You're opening the door, you're letting them feel comfortable in their space, maybe they're chattier, and you can I like to kind of match that energy. If they're quiet, I will be quiet and honor their peace. If they're chatty, I'm going to get with it. We're going to ask lots of questions. We're going to get to know each other. And that might be a way that you're able to build that open and honest and transparent communication relationship style a little bit easier. Now, another thing that I talked about briefly is experience. So when your client comes in, you want to make sure that their experience is wonderful, obviously. Now that's going to be as simple as how easy is it to find you? Does Google take them to the right place? Do you have a sign up? Do you have a way that they can find you? My sign is super small, and I think one of the biggest things that I run into is that they don't know where I'm at. I need to fix that and do a better job at showing the front of my building. One thing that I do say a lot if I have any prior communication and they're concerned about not finding me, I always let them know in downtown Chico. They obviously know that I'm in Chico, but I say downtown because there's 2 different roads that are very similar. We have
Hey, it's Emily here from Brow Fox Beauty. I'm so proud to be sponsoring this episode of Browducation. If you are new here, let me tell you a little bit about Brow Fox Beauty. We are a professional brow line for the esthetician. We specialize in easy retail for the busy esthetician. We also have a line of better back bar basics so you can be super confident putting pre and post wax solution and massage oil onto your client's skin, giving them the best glow and the best brows yet. You can find more information at browfoxbeauty.com or on social media at browfoxbeauty.
we have a street and an ave that are the same name. So I always like to make sure to say street and downtown. So this is a good way to open that communication and, lend that helping hand in an area that may be tricky. That is going into experience. So trying to make the experience as easy and, smooth as possible. Another thing I like is, of course, the front and whatever they're welcoming, their first impression of your business. Not even just necessarily your business, but walking into your space, what does it feel like? I personally rent a little studio inside of a salon. Our salon doors are all windows in the front. There's a nice open space, lots of plant life, and then the front desk person. So that is opening and welcoming, that somebody says, hi, hello, we have a seating area. I usually like to be out there unless, happenstance, something happens and I'm not able to. And if it's a new client, I always make sure to be up in front so that I can walk them back to my studio space because there's a little bit of a long hallway. So I want to make sure that from point A to point B, the front door to my door, they're being guided and helped if they've never been there before. Of course, a regular client that's seen me for years is probably just going to walk back and do her thing because she knows me. But we have to remember that these first impressions are really, really important. When I first met my clients that have seen me for years, I probably did go up in front and welcome them and walk them back. And this is all about that relationship building. I want to care for them. So, client care. And then, of course, the next experience is going to be walking into your studio space or the treatment room, whatever you want to call it. Now, I have a nice mural. I have huge eyebrows painted on my back wall. So it's like the first thing you see when you walk in. And I wanted my business to scream brow goddess, obviously. And the best way I thought to do so at the time was I definitely want to do a studio redo. So that's why I say at the time, because I have different ideas now. But at the time, still going to be giant eyebrows. I'm not getting rid of them. They're my favorite thing ever. I just want to make them better. But I wanted people to see brows right away. So that was like a first impression, a really fun way. It's something they can comment on. Like, oh my God, did you paint that? Because I hand painted them. So it's a communication starter, conversation starter. It welcomes them. They know they're in the right place. Next is going to be, here's where you can set your things down to let them know where their stuff can go, where they should, what they should do. You can lay down whenever you're ready. Giving them simple directions, which can sound scripted. Honestly, I say the same thing probably every single day. That's fine. If the repetition is helpful so that they feel comfortable when they come in. I know that it's so awkward and you walk into a new space and you're like, what do I do? Do I sit this way, that way? You know, whatever. And I think it's really easy. I think the first time I went and got my Brazilian done, sugared at this place that I still do, I sat backwards or something. I don't know, but I just didn't know what to do. And I made an assumption that was obviously wrong and sat down differently. So it's always nice just to kind of guide your clients. I have like a little pillow that sits on the head spot of my table. And I always say, like, you can go ahead and lay back whenever you're ready until your shoulders are touching the pillow. It just gives them like these little guides. Like people love to hear that. So they just automatically know what they're doing, especially in a new space. So that is another way that you can help make their experience smooth and easy. And then, of course, crushing that appointment, you want to make sure that your skills are up to par with whatever they're looking for. And this is when consultation will come into play. So you're going to make sure that you're asking whatever questions. I think all like formal consultation, like forms, should be handled prior to your appointment. Vagaro, which is the platform that I use for my booking site, is my favorite way of letting them book and then also sending them a form that automatically they have to fill out before they make that appointment if there's a form required. I am predominantly a threader, so I don't have to have regular forms for every single one of my brow artists or brow shaping clients because I don't really worry about contraindications. So depending on your business structure, however it's set up, make sure to send the forms beforehand so that they can A, fill it out beforehand and not waste time in the appointment. And then B, if you're going through a form and you notice anything that is a red flag, like if I'm going through it and it says, if it asks me a question about like, do I have eczema? I'd be like, oh my God, I do. That might trigger them to reach out to you and be like, hey, I do. Or you can see that form beforehand and be like, hey, have you ever had breakouts in your eyebrow area? Do you normally see it there? Do you have any current outbreaks? You know, you can ask these questions beforehand and then not run into issue at the day of the appointment. The day of the appointment should be quick consultations, as in quick questions that you can ask just to make sure that you guys are on the same page. Do you have any inspo photos? What is it that you're coming in here for today? What's your shaping like? What shaping were you looking for? Do you have any specific goals that you want to achieve? Are we growing them out? Do you want to keep them full? You know, there's a million different questions depending on the situation, but asking a few questions just to make sure that you guys are on the same page before you get started on the appointment is super duper crucial for just a great overall experience and making sure, again, that you guys are on the same page. So I think everything I just went over really encapsulates how you can keep a transparent, open, communicative relationship with your clients. We love them, but we want to make sure that we're building the foundation of this relationship on honesty, being open, and keeping that communication going. We also want to make sure that we're building their trust by taking care of them in certain situations and kind of guiding them through the entire appointment process, beginning to end, all the in between if they have questions. And then there's also educating clients. We want to make sure that we're thoroughly educating our clients too. When we're dealing with things like chemical treatments, like lamination or tinting, there's a little bit more concern going on there. And by concern, I mean there's just an extra level of care that's required, because we want to make sure that their their quality of their hair is going to retain the integrity of their hair. So if we're not keeping an open relationship and making sure that they can come to us if we have issues or struggles, they're not going to. And then if something worst case happens, they come in and get laminated and the hairs like get fried, or they're dry and they're damaged, they're not feeling good, they're having issues styling, and they don't feel comfortable reaching out to you. Instead, they're never going to come back. They're going to feel like you didn't do your job, even if it was an aftercare issue and something that you could have helped them with. It's the lack of communication that's ultimately going to be the downfall. So even if I'm running into something, and I hate getting messages that people aren't happy, but I love, love, love the fact that they feel comfortable to reach out to me. That's a really, really big distinction, is that even though it's uncomfortable to deal with these problems when they do arise, I still would rather them come in, allow me to attempt to fix whatever is going on, give them a conditioning treatment, give them extra aftercare, whatever it is. Hell, I'd go in and be like, can we do a little tutorial? I'll show you how to style them. Anything. I want to make sure that my clients are happy. Now, I'm not saying you need to bend over backwards for your clients. I've definitely been there and I have done it in the past. That's not always necessary. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, my business is located in a small town, and ultimately word of mouth is very, very, very popular, and a huge reason that my business has blown up to what it is. And I find that it's more important for me to continue to keep that reputation really solid throughout my town, rather than arguing with a client or over something, or being like, it was your fault. Never, ever, ever am I going to do that. I would rather lose out on money, give a refund, and do what I can so that I can try to help the client through whatever the issue is, even if that means I just have to have them come in and do a little educational tutorial and be like, hey, this is how you use the aftercare. It doesn't look like you're using it. Or maybe it's not working for you. Let's try something else. This is how you style them. Oh, they are still laminated. Then we just need to tweak them a little bit. Yada, yada, yada. Help them through the issue. It makes you look like the professional that you are. It shows that you care and you give a shit about the end results. And again, builds that trust, keeps that communication open. And ultimately, hopefully, it means that even if there was an error or something that happened, that something went awry, you may still retain that client, also not get like a bad review or anything else like that, God forbid. So I think all of these things are super duper important I think it's all important for a business, but also a huge proponent to how I grew my brow business to what it is. And that's exactly what I want for you. So I am going to wrap it up now. I don't want to make this too long saying all of these C words over and over and over again. But I do really quickly want to go over an event I have upcoming. If you listen to my more recent podcasts, I think it was a couple back, but I told you that I am no longer doing in-person training. But I have one training left in person, and that is April 7th in San Luis Obispo. Oh my god, I completely forgot how to say that for a second. In California, down at the Sweet Spot with Emily of the Brow Fox. Super duper excited to bring you guys this incredible in-person lamination experience. 2 educators talking skill and science, and getting you a killer swag bag. My manual will be included. We'll be going over waxing and hand-tied threading hair removal, and basically spilling all of the tea. You won't want to miss it. I will link where you can purchase those tickets or your spot in the show notes, as always. And if you want to follow me and the pod on social media, you can find the podcast at Browducation. You can find me at the.eyebrow.goddess. You can find that same our account at TikTok, same thing, if TikTok even is still around. And then you can find all of the information and all of my changes, different things coming, like the membership that's coming very, very soon. So excited. You can find all of that at my website, www.theeyebrowgoddess.com. And thank you for being here. I hope you have a killer rest of your day, and I will see you next week.